success isn't found at the peaks, it's found in the valleys. And so you're going to have constant valleys, constant struggles, constant obstacles. And your measure of success has to be on how you navigate through those. And you need to stop and recognize and celebrate those wins, because otherwise you go crazy.
Welcome to the Huckleros podcast with special guest Tom Seymour of Moka Energy.
Welcome to Huckleros. We are recording at the world famous Next Course Studios in downtown Rochester, New York, in the historic Sibley building. I'm here today with Tom Seymour of Moka Energy, who most graciously has decided to join us here on an early episode of Huckleros. And Tom, I first met you a couple months back at the Startup Grind pitch battle, which took, was in the conference room here. And there's a lot of different companies, a lot of different characters, but you stood out. You're promoting, I think you had the big chain on with the Moka Energy. There's no doubt who you were here representing, and you had definitely high energy. And I'm curious, where does that level come from? And you can't say it's from eating your bars here, which you brought some. We'll try out later.
I got to say, if you talk to my parents, they would tell you that I've always had an insane amount of energy. And one of the things that people have pointed out to me in my career, I'll sit down and meet with someone and they're like, your passion and your enthusiasm is infectious. And I don't even know it. Like, I don't know that I'm coming off as passionate or enthusiastic. I'm a person that believes that like time is such a finite resource. And I want to make sure that I get everything I possibly can out of every second. And I don't want to regret anything. So I kind of go into my day, I go into my hour, into my meetings, into any engagement with the idea that like, it's already preset in my head that like, I'm very excited and like fortunate for the opportunity to be able to do what I'm doing. And so I feel like that's like the genesis of the energy is like that natural.
You've always had it.
Yeah. Passion, enthusiasm.
It's innate. So if you weren't doing this startup and CPG packaging, you'd be like the next Tony Robbins. You'd be like motivational speaker or something, right? Like
it's funny because in my day job, I work as a business development. I've always worked in business development for either food packaging or food manufacturing.
Okay.
And so you have to have that, extroverted personality. And if you have passion and enthusiasm, you're already a step above anybody else in the industry. Because a lot of times you get people in that space that are like, they're pretty bland. And, nobody wants to talk to someone that's boring and, isn't excited about what they're doing. And more than that, not excited about what they're doing, but excited about what you're doing. Right. And so I find it easy to get super excited and passionate about every project, every customer that I've been put in touch with. And that's just a natural.
It goes a long way. It goes a long way, especially if you exude that. It is infectious, it's contagious, and it goes a long way to building relationships. And also, as you said, if you only have a finite amount of time, get things done, do it right. And all those adages, it makes a lot of sense. How did you get started in the business development in that space?
Yeah, so I was in hospitality, working as head waiter and wine steward at the Woodcliff. I loved it. It was great. But my wife got pregnant and we were expecting my son, and we were working together there, and we were working nights and weekends. And it was just, at a hotel, you're working 365, 24/7.
Yes.
And the busiest times were like the holidays. And we looked at it and we said, like, is this what we want for our family? Do we want our kids to never see us on the holidays? And so I was going to go back to Roberts Wesleyan College to get a master's in strategic leadership, because I thought that if I piled on more education, somehow that would help me be more marketable in the job space. So I went over to my dad's house with the application, and I said, Dad, this is the cost. And he said, hey, before you spend any more money on college, please do me a favor. Like, come try working with me. My dad worked in packaging. At the time, he was at Mako PKG, which is a manufacturer of flexible film packaging, mainly in military, industrial, and medical. And they had a co-packing division that one of the family members had started. And so they were looking for a junior salesperson. And my dad said, just come try it for a year. If you don't like it, you can go back to school. And so I went and I mentored under him for a year. Within the first 6 months, I fell in love with it. Like I think it was partially being able to work and mentor under my dad and like get to spend that really unique quality time with him. And then I don't know, something about the science of it made sense to me. It clicked in my brain. And coming from hospitality and food, the transferable skills of hospitality and business development went hand in hand. And also
big time.
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah. And also having that food background in the hospitality industry and then being thrust into a business that, yes, I had to learn what co-packing, co-manufacturing of food was, but there was a lot of building blocks already there. And then what I didn't have on like the military and medical and industrial packaging side, I was able to learn from my dad. And so after 5 years working together, he retired and I kept it as a career. I never went back to school. And that really is the segue into how I got started with Moka. Because had I never made this transition into packaging and food packaging, I never would have built the network. I never would have gained the unfair advantage that I realized I had when I started Moka.
Mm-hmm.
And so really it tracks all the way back to my dad saving me $50K on a master's degree.
Yeah, you're getting on the job, getting paid for that apprenticeship, right? You were an actual employee getting the on the job training that extended into what is a long time career in the business development side. And when did you make that flip into biz dev and that utilizing that hospitality background into, it's essentially you're building relationships, you're doing a lot of outbound sales work, I'm assuming?
Yeah. So day one, I have to say that my dad was instrumental in helping me identify that there was an opportunity. But from day one, when I went in to interview with the Miller family that owns Mako, they expected me to get up and do a PowerPoint presentation and sell them. And I think the PowerPoint presentation was on Mako niblets or something like that, like a fictional food product. And I went in and pitched them on basically how Mako could manufacture and sell this food product with zero knowledge or experience. I mean, my dad fed me a little bit. Like, obviously I went over the pitch with my dad and he helped me like dial it in so that I wasn't way off in left field. Cause I didn't have a basis of knowledge to be able to like wisely speak about how to manufacture this niblet.
Right.
And so I have to say that Mike Miller, one of the family members that owns that business and today is the president of the business, he held the door for me. And so ever since my dad and Mike held the door for me, I try my best to do that for other people because I realized that, so all the other family members, after my pitch, I did a great pitch, but after the pitch, the other family members were like, yeah, we don't think so. Like, Tom doesn't really have experience and like he's gonna have to learn a lot, we're gonna have to invest a lot in him. So like the family voted, I found out afterwards, and everybody kind of said no except for Mike. And Mike had been a regular of mine at Woodcliff. I had been taking care of him when he'd bring clients up, and I always delighted him and wowed him with the service.
So he knew the soft skills that you had.
He knew what I could do. Yeah. And so he was like, I'm not taking no for an answer. Like, we're bringing Tom in.
He's pounding the table for you.
I know he can do it. Yeah. And so, so that was really like how I got the job, but I had to start selling from day one. And I was put into a outside sales rep position my first year, with a commission structure. So I've always been, in this industry in an outside sales business development position.
Yeah.
And it's just been a matter of like, I knew that I had a learning curve and that I was way behind the 8 ball. So I knew that I had to take every advantage I could. So I started going over to RIT, School of Packaging. I started taking any webinar, seminar. I joined the Institute of Packaging Professionals, joined and quickly became a board member of the local chapter, and like started just volunteering and thrusting myself into the ecosystem, touring facilities, visiting suppliers. So trying to amass what other people had, either years of knowledge from working experience or had the opportunity to go to school for that specific
that's
field.
what you're doing instead of going like Roberts Wesleyan and dropping however many tens of thousands of dollars.
Yep.
And, you know, discuss it, because I've had that role, the outside sales rep. Did you have accounts that you were given, or did you have to, were you like, here's the list of manufacturers, or, you know, how was your onboarding? Sounds like, you know, especially if Michael Miller was the one who pounded on the table for you, sounds like they weren't going to give you anything. You had to earn it all. Was it one of those types?
Yeah. So that has been the story of my career. So I am a hunter and a builder, and a self-starter. And I've always had that entrepreneurial spirit. Like I've told other people the story. Like I started slinging candy out of my wagon when I was like 9 years old in my neighborhood, 10 years old, because I could walk up to Wilson Farms, because I was always a really big kid, like a foot taller than all the other kids, like abnormally large. Now I'm a normal sized human being. But when I was a kid, I was a monster. And so my dad and mom let me walk to the corner store, and I would pick up crab apples at my neighbor's house for a penny a piece. I would turn those pennies into candy. I would go flip that candy at 50% margin to the kids that couldn't walk up to the store. So like I've always had that hustle.
Yeah. You knew the audience. Yeah. So is that was your first entrepreneurial?
That's the first that I can
journey.
remember. And then I've never been a person. So I worked through college full time. Full time is 30 hours a week at Applebee's, which was a difficult thing to do, to work full time and go to school. And then I've always had side hustles and ways. I've never been without money, never been without means. Like at 20 something years old, I was able to buy a really nice brand new speedboat. Not the smartest purchase. I ended up selling it like when my kids came.
Yeah, those are so much. It's like a money pit. A lot of boats are.
Yeah. But I always had money available to me because I was always hustling and working and trying to like figure out. But so never
mindset.
Never given anything. I will say so at Mako, I was there a little over 8 years and had to build 100%.
Yeah. How did that first year go? Where you necessarily weren't given, you know, it's like figure it out, build this business. And that's how, if somebody is getting into a sales, or at least how it used to be, I'm not, you know, now I'm sure it's changed a lot. I haven't been in that arena in a while, but what was that first year like, where the pressures on, expectations of everyone but the person who championed you and the family are like, we're not sure about this guy. What was that year one like in that?
So I got to say, I've been blessed that I've moved 4 times in 15 years, and every place that I've gone, I've been easily able in my first year to make things happen. So I want to say my first year at Mako, they had no sales expectation for me, because they just thought like, there's no way this guy is going to be able to do much of anything. I took like a $50,000 pay cut to go from waiting tables to selling packaging.
Yes.
So I was like already really stressed out. So like I knew, but they said, if you do sell anything in the first year, we'll pay you a commission. So I ended up selling $500,000 worth of product, which, you know, at the time the company was like, let's say a $20 million company. So, you know, $5 million relative to 20 million is pretty good for someone with no experience.
Yeah.
And then I was able every year to like just, and again, I've been blessed everywhere I've been able to come in big time over goal year over year over year. I'm starting to wonder like when is that bad year coming? Because it has to happen at some point.
Mm-hmm.
But to date, I've really been quite fortunate that I've been able to build. The hardest part was to start year 2. Craig, Mike's brother, they were co-presidents at Mako, called me in the office and said, "Hey, I want to keep you hungry and incentivize you. So I'm going to cut you." And at the time, this sounds crazy to me, but like at the time it was $5,000. He was going to cut another $5,000 out of the salary. And I'd already taken a $50,000 haircut.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I'm like, I start thinking like, I'm panicking. I'm like, I don't have any more to give. But I was like, you know what? It gave me the fuel. Like I kind of looked at that as not like incentivization. I looked at it as like negative energy. I've had a lot of negative energy in my life. A lot of people that have told me that I can't, I won't, that have taken. And like, I use that constantly as a source of like energy to like show them that they were wrong. And so when he took that 5,000 away from me, I looked at it as like motivation to go out and just show him like this
another
is
obstacle.
biggest mistake that you make is like taking anything away from someone that's going to just be one of your strongest team members. So I ended up that year, I think I went from like 500,000 to 1.5 million that second year. And then obviously I was able to
oh wow.
Yeah.
So like 3x.
Yeah. And then
so that 5,000 that they took was like, who cares? Because you're making it, made more than up, I'm assuming, on commission.
Yeah. And then over the coming years, continued to like just have big windfalls on the top line sales side. And then obviously once people know that you're a stud, they're willing to pay you a little bit healthier salary because they want to keep you. So I was able to like get that salary crept up. And but everywhere I've been, so Mako, there were no handouts there. I left Mako to go to Ledestri Foods.
Okay.
And I will say that Ledestri hired me to be business development manager for Kraft Heinz and Nestle account, which was a huge book of business. And I was doing very little hunting.
Right. Well, those are big accounts though.
Yeah. So my job was basically to manage those accounts. And after a few years, it wasn't my passion to be like locked into these like multi-year contract, multi-million-dollar contracts that my job was basically the go-between between making peace between management and the customer, depending on what day it was and who was having the problem, right? Like, because on both sides of it, the customer can sometimes have issues that cause the manufacturer to get upset, and sometimes the manufacturer has issues that cause the customer to get upset. So I was just the go-between, right? And like
you're the ambassador, the manager of those the complications of those big account relationships.
Yeah, and managing a contract that was like, as thick as the Bible,
Sure.
So that just wasn't my passion.
Yeah.
I love the people I worked with, and actually through that became really good friends with the Ledestri family.
Okay.
And that experience kind of set me up. National Cortina, which is another business that John Ledestri owns in New Jersey. They ended up coming in as an investor in Moka. But had I never made that jump from Mako to Ledestri, I never would have built that friendship with the family. And then had that ability to bring them in as a partner for Moka. So that is one spot in my career where I was given accounts to manage. Then I left to go to Hammer Packaging, and I was there for less than a year, because in the less than a year I was there, like I think 30 days after I joined, Jim sold it to private equity.
Oh man.
And that private equity firm rolled it into a company called Fort Dearborn, which is a much larger printing company. And then like, I don't know, 2 months later, Fort Dearborn's private equity sold it to another private equity that rolled it into Multicolor Corporation, which is like one of the largest label printers in the world. And so given nothing there, and really hard to build traction with all that change.
As they're coming in, cutting and making different decisions based on their initiatives, not necessarily what you were hired for. That's a difficult situation to be dealt when you didn't really know that was on the docket.
Yeah. Jim had started a flexible packaging division at Hammer just a couple years prior, and he brought me in as a person to help grow that division. I kind of knew, so Fort Dearborn had some commitment to sticking with flexible, but when Multicolor came in, they made it clear that like flexible was not something they wanted to be the biggest prime label manufacturer in the world. The flexible was just a distraction. And so I knew they were going to close the department. I had a strong feeling. I left, and like 6 months later, they closed the department and sold off all the equipment. So had I stayed at Hammer, I would have been let go, and I would have been in a very different employment situation. So I jumped. I had known Bison Bag for a long time. They had been a vendor of mine when I was at Mako, because Mako doesn't print film, and so they have to buy the print from somewhere, and they bought a lot of it from Bison. And so I knew Scott Zagoda and Bison Bag, and like they're a really great family-owned business. And so when it was time to jump, I had the conversation with Scott, and he was like, "Yeah, let's have you come on board." So I've been with them 5 years, again, building a book.
Sure.
Now building the book at this stage is a lot easier, because you have now a network and history and people. So it's not as easy. Like some people think that like, oh, the book will just follow you. And like that doesn't happen. Like, especially when people are invested in printing plates and tooling and stuff, it doesn't
Yeah.
just, they don't just necessarily jump with you. But because of the network I had, I was able to build that book a lot easier. And over the past 5 years, again, same story. Like, I think last year I finished the year 65% over goal, currently tracking right now, like, I don't know, 20% over goal for the year. So like
Already in
yeah,
May. Yeah.
yeah.
Okay.
So
Wow.
I joke around with Scott, like, okay, so do I stop working in October? Or last year I think I hit goal in like August.
Yeah. We're
Um,
just like, oh well, I got this in the can. I'm gonna start a startup. We're gonna start Mocha Energy.
yeah. And
With all this time I got.
yeah, and that's the beautiful thing about Bison Bag is that Scott understands that if I'm able to get my work done, hit my goals, and deliver the sales that I've signed up for and come in over goal,
Yeah.
he's not nitpicking on like he
It,
knows about Mocha. It's like, if that's what you want to do, that's fine. Just make sure your sales are coming in,
yeah.
because when that stops happening, then Mocha becomes a problem. And so I've kind of proven out. I've been working on Mocha for about 2 years. And so obviously over the past 2 years, I've been able to maintain my sales goals at Bison while at the same time launching Mocha. And we have an
Cool.
understanding that like those roles may shift in the future, right? Like maybe I'm not full-time at Bison 2 years from now. Maybe I'm part-time and full-time with Mocha. But we have to see, but we've had those conversations, and I don't know too many employers that would be that flexible and understanding.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. I think that's really cool. And it comes to, if you have good business development and sales talent, smart operators, executives, fill in the blank, founders, company owners, they let their top performers perform and just kind of stay out of their way. Right. I've
mm-hmm.
seen that and been a part of that, where if somebody isn't, then you're going to see the micromanagement and everything else on top. And the fact that you build a business and saying, yeah, it's not all going to come over, but you have the network to call some up and be like, hey, do you know so-and-so over here? Because I'd really like an introduction. It gives you, that's a strength that's built over time. That's a muscle that isn't easily built. And it's earned. It's earned when you have, and it takes time to build that network. And I'm sure it's doing a lot of forming the baseline for what you're doing with Mocha. And I want to talk about the genesis of Mocha and everything that you're doing there. But first, we were talking about, your podcast, and before we started here, where you were saying that, you're interviewing founders in your space about getting your knees scraped, getting up and, dusting off and do it again. That's a core kernel that I have for this podcast too. So it's funny, even different, we're in the same ballpark, I guess, in that. And what, prior to Mocha Energy, is there any scrapes or areas where you stumbled, you fell? I mean, the 5K is a punch in the gut to overcome. But what are those? Is there any like one or two over those years as you were building that profile where you're like, oh man, I don't know if I can do this. I gotta figure this out.
Yeah, I think that with working for a company, you have a bit of a safety net, right? And if you make a mistake, there's kind of someone there to clean it up, and it's not as you're not an island, right? You have a team of people that can help you fix the mistake and overcome it. Where when you're an entrepreneur, oftentimes you're an island, and like you have to figure out how to overcome these things. I would say that probably one of the biggest challenges that I had in building the packaging career was balancing work-life balance.
Okay.
Because I'm a bit of a workaholic. I joke now that like work is my hobby because I've given up almost all my hobbies. And because of what Mike and my dad did for me, I show up for other people. And what I'm now seeing is that by showing up for other people, and, you know, a lot of people have told me like, you're crazy, the amount of stuff you volunteer for, which if I went through it, we'd have to film another podcast. Cause
Okay.
I think I have
Well, you come back on and talk about
like
that.
13 organizations now that I'm like
Oh
affiliated
man. All
with
right.
and like, and giving some of my time to, but, and like none of those directly are like, are necessarily driving business development leads for Bison,
Mm-hmm.
but indirectly, like now I don't have to hunt as hard because people are coming looking for me.
Yeah.
You know, like through word of mouth, it's like, hey, this guy really helped me out, or, you know, like
you're that I know a guy.
Yeah.
You're that I know a guy. Talk to Tom.
And it built so much goodwill that like,
right.
I think that like the reason it's happening is because people want to see me succeed, because they know how much I've done, how much I've sacrificed and done for others.
Yeah.
Which is like, by the way, like I went to a all boys Jesuit school, and like we were hammered in this idea of being men for others.
Sure.
And so that's
the Jesuit way, right?
Yeah, that
McQuaid?
rings true. Yeah.
Okay,
McQuaid.
cool.
And that rings true to this day. And like, so it's funny how that type of mindset in a business development role ends up yielding like really good results and
service to others.
Yeah. Service to others first. And then
your family, obviously.
Yeah.
And that's interesting too, because it's like you got out of the hospitality because you're like, this schedule isn't going to work and it's not going to be conductive with having a family.
Yeah.
And then it's like, but just you replace it with, well, it's better out. You're not gonna have to work on Christmas, right? So, but it's I'm still like figuring stuff out. You know, you're doing the packaging or whatever, right? It's like that time fills up, and balancing that with all of the volunteering you're doing has to be, because time. You said time is a finite resource.
Yeah.
So how are you managing that now? Are you kind of compartmentalizing it, or you know? Especially with the startup,
I try to choose very wisely now, and I've started to learn to say no. And I haven't missed a Christmas, and I haven't missed a Good Friday. Like, you know, so like that is one of the perks of making the switch. But yeah, like I'm working, like when I was in the restaurant business, I might've been working 40 hours a week, max 30, 40 hours a week. I don't know. Some weeks I don't even want to say the hours. Like last night I slept 3.5 hours.
Okay. And you're up, and we're going to eat these. I think, you know, this might be the secret.
Yeah. And so it's just a matter of like making the most of every minute in the day.
Yeah.
And then trying to be a really good manager of time. Like my calendar is, I'm a person that like puts every task into my calendar.
Okay.
Like even the drive time, my shower goes into my calendar. Like,
oh wow.
So I have my day planned out from, you know, 4 a.m. when I wake up until 9, 10, 11 o'clock at night when I go to bed.
Very structured.
Yeah, very structured. And that's how I'm managing to be there for everyone that I can be there for. But that's probably the biggest challenge. Like the highlight reel of my life in packaging is that like Tom's this really great, successful packaging guy. He's got this great, everything going great for him. But like on the other side of it, what I've sacrificed for it is a lot of time with my family.
Yeah.
And so, you know, that was probably the biggest kind of challenge and kind of obstacle that I had and still have, right? Like last year I spent almost 90 hotel nights in Hilton hotels. So that's a lot of time to be away from your family.
Mm-hmm.
And so, but I explain to people that like I'm sacrificing some time with my family now to hopefully provide them with a life that I didn't have, you know, growing up.
Yeah.
And, you know, my kids are healthy and well adjusted, and I try to be as present as I can when I'm home. But you're
gonna get that platinum elite status with Hilton.
Yeah.
That we're gonna go to all the best resorts around, you know, for vacation.
I just flew them to Sicily. I flew my whole family to Sicily in August for 2 weeks, and was able to pay for it on just points.
That's awesome.
So that was nice, you know, so then they can appreciate like
this is why dad's working hard. You know, we're taking this nice trip. There's that work balance. I think that's something it's difficult, especially when you're an entrepreneur, is to, you know, understand that I struggle with it is like, there'll be times where it's like, I'm going and sneaking off an email, or like, I thought of this. And cause I'm not as structured as you, is like, my day is I'll have my meetings, and then I'll, kind of backfill it with, okay, these are the tasks I need to get done today. And so I'll forget, and it's like, oh, I'll go back like another time, or I don't have a problem like working on the weekends, but it's just kind of, if you give me time, I'm going to fill it with the activities that I believe are going to help my business. Right. So it's almost like, don't give me too much free time. Like, I have to plan those things out with the family life balance as well too. So that's something that I think everybody has a different approach. And so I want to talk about Mocha Energy, and the genesis of this. How did it begin? And at what point, you said you've been working on it for 2 years now.
Yeah. So a couple years ago, I met another coffee nut. My partner, one of my co-founders, Omar.
Yeah, I know Omar.
Yeah, and he owns Rococo Coffee Shop here in the Sibley building.
Shout out Omar, Rococo.
Amazing coffee.
Yeah,
Omar, you got to get the coffee up here at Nextcore. Like, not to diss the coffee, but like, I just had a cup, and like I couldn't drink it. Like,
my god, well, we're gonna eat our coffee.
I'm a little bit of a coffee snob, and so he has great coffee down there. So he and I met, and he had been playing around with a coffee candy bar that he just wasn't quite sure. Like, his expertise was not bringing a product to market.
Yeah.
And so he said, I love the product. I think it's off on the formulation from a claim standpoint to like align more with like modern trends and people's kind of dietary preferences.
Sure.
It was truly like a coffee candy. And I wanted to make it a functional coffee candy. So I said, would you be interested if I put the whole supply chain together and showed you how we don't have to manufacture a thing. Like, we can outsource 100% of everything, and we can focus on building a brand and not building a manufacturing outfit. And he's like, yeah, if you can do that, that'd be great. So I spent like 6 months. At that time, I applied for Food Spark at the Center of Excellence for Food and Agriculture at Cornell Agritech.
Okay.
And I jumped in and grabbed a food product development certificate. I've been through a bunch of coursework out at Cornell. And so it seemed to make sense. And I used Mocha as the thesis for that course.
Oh, smart.
And so I was able to refine the product through that process, and came back with a supply chain and everything kind of all lined up with the new formula. And he said, yeah, let's do it. Let's make it official. So we started producing benchtop product and sampling. Like, I think I sampled.
What does that mean?
Benchtop is like on small scale, like lab type equipment.
Okay.
Started making bars. And because I'm a packaging guy, like right out of the gates, I started using like really solid packaging.
Yeah.
Like I was
and the brand, did you have the brand at that point?
Yeah. So I was buying roll stock, and I was like, I have a little packaging lab in my house. So I was like hand welding. So the product that we were putting out for sampling, the first 1,000 bars that I made on bench, they were all wrapped and branded. It looked like a legit brand. It didn't look like a mom and pop. So that was part of being fortunate to be in the packaging space. And so we were sampling, we were getting feedback from people, and Omar and I realized like we really could use another partner. And I had met a food scientist, a young food scientist from Cornell University named Jessica Kwong.
Okay.
And like got to know her, became friends with her. She became a customer of mine at Bison. And she owns a brand called Jack and Friends vegan jackfruit jerky. And I said,
jackfruit
jerky. Yeah.
Oh, interesting. It's vegan jerky.
Yeah, vegan jerky.
Oh,
yeah.
Cool.
Super great product. So
yeah,
look for that out in the store. She's in Whole
Jessica.
Foods.
Shout out Jessica. Come on the pod.
And so we were at Natural Products Expo West. And I said, hey, would you be interested? This sounds like a crazy question, but would you be interested coming on as a co-founder with Mocha? And she was like, yeah, let me think about it. She's the only person I asked. I knew that she was the person. Like I just, in my gut, I wanted Jessica to be on the team. Like I don't know. I had some sense that like,
intuition.
yeah. And so,
and for what role specifically as a co-founder? Because Omar has the background of the formulation, the idea behind it. She has the food science background. You have supply chain.
yep.
So what were kind of the defined roles? Because I see you guys are all, you have your strengths so far on the founding
so not
team.
only did she have the food science background, but she also has brought a product to market. Right.
Okay.
So I have mentored probably 1,000 emerging brand owners. That's where I realized I had the unfair advantage is I've seen the good, the bad, and the ugly, and like had a roadmap of like what to do and what not to do. And then I had this unfair advantage of this network that I had built.
Sure.
But Jessica, I had never actually physically taken a product. I've taken a product from concept to the back of a manufacturing facility to a dock onto a truck, but I've never pushed out into the retail space. And like the vast piece between the back of the factory door and your garage door or your front door,
right?
There is a lot. And so she had already done that with Jack and Friends.
Okay.
So I was like, on the food science side, that's a huge win. But then she also has the experience, and in that experience, she had built partners, right? So when you look at like 3PL, or you look at like deduction management, or you look at distribution, or just all these different relationships that she had formed, all the touch points that you need.
Yeah. So I'm seeing it's a progression is like you have the supply chain of sourcing everything, getting it to what we see here. But then from that point, it needs to get into retail, needs to get into different sales channels where you're omni-channel. And so it could get to consumers and your customer.
I'm good at selling, right? So I can sell the product. So I take the face with like investor meetings. I take the face with retail. Actually, in a little bit, I have a meeting with a distributor that we're onboarding with.
Cool.
And so, but she knows the ins and outs, and she knows a lot of the players. And so, I just knew that it was a perfect opportunity.
Sounds like a smart fit. Yeah.
So between the three of us, what we tell investors is like, we're proven operators in the space. So we have the unfair advantage to be able to put a product in the market at a lower risk. We've de-risked it basically by putting a super team together.
Yeah.
You meet a lot of food founders and they're very green. And like they had a great recipe. Someone told them like, you should go put this out into the market. Right. And the difference is that all three of us have this really unique combined skill set that de-risks for investors, and I think sets us up for success long term.
Yeah. Yeah. And what is the how'd you say response? It sounds like you have some investors already that have signed on, and I know you're actively fundraising now. What has the response been, good and bad, because of the super team, because of the product, and where your positioning is at? What has the response been so far from investors?
Yeah, so I'll tell you, one of the things that I say often on my podcast is that we live in this highlight reel culture where we can talk about like, yeah, we've been fortunate to raise 90% of our pre-seed round. That's a really highlight thing to say, but the truth about entrepreneurship is that success isn't found at the peaks, it's found in the valleys. And so you're going to have constant valleys, constant struggles, constant obstacles, and your measure of success has to be on how you navigate through those. And you need to stop and recognize and celebrate those wins, because otherwise you go crazy, because the peaks are very far and few between.
Yeah.
Especially early on. And
a lot of ups and downs.
Yeah. Yeah.
And you got to manage those downs with a certain shake it off mentality.
Yes. And that's coming from someone that I just told you is a proven operator.
Yeah.
Right. So like if I'm having that level of challenge and obstacle,
nothing is easy.
Yeah. Yeah. Nothing is easy. So if anyone ever told you that entrepreneurship's easy, it is probably the hardest thing I've ever done. But on the investor side, Jessica's Jessica and Omar are both really knowledgeable on the investment side. It's an area that I had to go back to school for.
Okay.
like packaging, like these other things. I had to get an education because I have never raised money. I've never opened a round. I've never, so it was easy enough to learn. I know enough to be dangerous.
hmm
But yeah, I mean, the challenge is that I probably have spoken with, I don't know, I can't even count the amount of investors. And, I think we've had like 10 investors. We have 10 investors on our cap table right now.
Okay.
But to get those 10, I probably talked to 100.
100. Yeah. Yeah.
And so, yeah, the feedback has been people seeing and believing the proven operator, the unfair advantage side of it. They like the product. They like the idea. They like the innovation, right? Using coffee, the innovation to take coffee and make it into a chocolate-like substance. Have had some pushback, and it's been good pushback because it's helped us. We're in the process of redoing our label to better communicate to the consumer that it's made from coffee, not chocolate. Because if you're comparing it to a chocolate bar, it sure, it's a good chocolate if it was a chocolate, but it's not.
It's a different category.
It's not like you wouldn't be like, wow, this is the most premium chocolate I've ever tried, right?
Sure.
And so if you're comparing it to chocolate, it loses. But when I tell people it's not chocolate, it's made from coffee, it looks like chocolate, it feels like chocolate, but there's no chocolate in the recipe. It's made from coffee. That's when the light bulb goes off, and that's when people really get it, right? Like I use the texture and the format of chocolate because we know that the texture of chocolate is a universally loved texture, right? It's smooth, it's creamy. I think most caffeinated snacks that I found in the market, they fail on texture before they fail on flavor.
Yeah.
And so using the vehicle of a chocolate bar, removing the cocoa beans, adding coffee beans, giving that natural caffeine, driving a functional formula, all this stuff is what differentiates from chocolate. And so trying to tell that story to the investors and helping them understand that, and then translate.
You really have to try it too.
Yeah.
And like we have some bars here. This is going to be here. Do you want to? Yeah. This is the one we have, the dark roast coffee. This is the one flavor I haven't tried yet. I've tried the cappuccino, and the vanilla latte. It's chocolate cappuccino, or what is
caramel cappuccino,
vanilla
latte, and soon this dark roast is going to be changed to signature roast because it's actually not a dark roast flavor. And what we learned through sampling and demoing customers is that we polarize the crowd by saying it's dark roast. I had a bunch of people go like, well, I don't eat dark roast, so I'm not going to try that. So we're changing it to signature roast, which then it opens up this really great opportunity to come out with an espresso bar.
Oh, okay.
So then we'll have a fourth SKU, which will be a much darker roast, lower sugar.
Yeah. And I like this flavor. I think, this might be my favorite. I really liked the latte, the vanilla latte. I think was my favorite out of the other two. The caramel, which is funny because I normally would pick a caramel over vanilla, but this is not a chocolate bar, but it looks like. So I see the distinction from a brand and positioning standpoint that you're doing, and just reading through this too is like I'm trying to lose weight, so having the caffeine is good, but this is only 170 calories. And what I'm going to look at is like the sugar and like the carbohydrates, because that's what I'm watching right now as I'm losing weight. And I don't feel necessarily bad about having one of these because I'm doing like intermittent fasting, right? So I would eat this, maybe not when I'm on like a crazy fast, but this is something with black coffee, which I enjoy. It's like 6 grams of sugar on 170 calories. That's not much at all. And and then you have the dietary fiber in here. So it's like 6 net carbs if you're counting.
Exactly. Yeah. So it's coconut sugar. So it's organic, low glycemic. The product, like you said, is high fiber. It is prebiotic. It's vegan and gluten-free. So you get that creaminess without having milk in the product.
Yeah.
It has some upcycled plant-based protein. It's rich in polyphenols and antioxidants. What I found was it has all these great functional attributes that we've formulated to, but what sells with customers is the idea that it's made from real coffee and it's real convenient.
Yeah.
And it took me a minute because I was out selling on the functionality side, and I'm like, man, like this isn't landing the way I thought it would. And And then we did a big survey, and what came back was what hit was real coffee, and the conversion to buy was that it's a convenient, portable cup of coffee. So, we've had to change a little bit to like we've transformed the cup of coffee in a bar that's
Yeah.
clean and functional that you can take and eat anytime, anywhere. That hits more than but the good news is I can also tell you that it's a cup of coffee and a healthy snack all rolled into one.
Well, could you do, and this is just riffing, spitballing here, but isn't there kind of a segment of people like chocolate lovers where, I wouldn't feel if I'm a chocolate crazed person but I wouldn't necessarily like break open a Hershey bar first thing in the morning. This with a morning coffee is a really nice mix. So maybe it's like a chocolate replacement, but have it with your coffee and you don't really have to feel bad about it. And you're getting a little boost lift from the caffeine from both. So,
I tell people, think of it like this. Think of it like that morning cup, that first cup of hot Joe that I have, I'm never replacing that.
yeah.
But on that second or third cup occasion, when you're on the go, you're head to the gym, leaving the gym, between meetings, commuting, out kayaking, backpacking, whatever, when coffee's not accessible or convenient, you can have Moka in your bag, in your pocket with you to get that healthy snack and that jolt of a cup of coffee, right? So it's more of finding that it's not in place of coffee, but it's an addition to your coffee routine.
Yeah. I think it's not a replacement. I think it's great with that first cup of coffee. I think it's like a huge.
So I've done some drinks. You take an espresso machine. There's a trend of taking chocolate bars and doing a pour over espresso. So you rest the chocolate bar over the espresso cup, and then you turn on the espresso machine, and as the hot espresso comes down, it melts and the chocolate goes into the cup with the espresso. Well, I've taken the Moka bar and done a double shot play where you're getting that same pour over.
All right. You have to make me one of these. Yeah, that sounds awesome.
Yeah. Sorry.
No,
I just bumped the mic. And last week, my wife and I made Mocha energy martinis, espresso martinis.
Okay.
So, being from hospitality, I moonlight as a bartender, so I'm pretty good at making drinks. And so I made an espresso martini. I finished it with shaved mocha on the top, because sometimes you see a martini where they shave chocolate.
Especially like a chocolate one.
So I shaved the mocha on the top, so you get a little bit of it in the drink, a little bit of caffeine, and then took and made a garnish out of one of the individual squares from the bar, and it was delicious. And I'm playing around with lots of different. I mean, this isn't stuff we're going to market with, but it's fun stuff. It's like fun stuff to be able to.
I think if you did a video of that, like just make it. That's just like so enticing. Like just the creation of that. Yeah. Why not put it out there like on TikTok and whatnot?
Yeah. Other use cases. It's not just that midday pick me up. But, you can add it to your cocktail routine. You can add it to your gym routine. You can add it to your coffee occasion with the pour over. We're working on chips and wafers on the B2B side because we've had a lot of businesses that are interested in as an inclusion or an enrobing. And so, I'm working. Yeah. I've made some chips. I've done some coffee chip cookies. I've done some.
Interesting.
Yeah, I've done some coffee granola. I've panned some nuts. I've played around with panning espresso beans. So a coffee coated espresso bean instead of a chocolate coated espresso bean. It's like a double shot espresso bean.
Oh my gosh.
So I played
there's
around.
a lot of different applications.
There's a lot of
this
different
is
stuff. Yeah.
It's your mind on auto drive.
Yeah. But we're focusing on selling deep, obviously, on the bars. Yeah. We are going to be launching some bites because we know that there's a great market for bites, but really focused on the core. But you have to always be out there thinking
who is that core customer of that, like what is their demographic, what's the makeup of that person?
Yeah, it's funny what we find through lots and lots of sampling and through lots of surveying is that our core demo is women, ages 30 to 60.
Okay.
That is where we are hitting hard. That is our core. Like they love the product.
Okay.
And so it's so interesting that out of all of this, you don't know when you create a product, like you theorize who the people that are going to consume it and the use occasion, but until you get out there and start putting it in front of people, you don't truly know who the person is and how they're going to use it. And yeah, we found that
that segment,
women, busy moms, busy professionals, yeah.
No, and if you're positing this to that demographic and you're saying, hey, this is 170, it's vegan, it's gluten-free, that has all the functionality that, don't indulge on that chocolate bar. This is another way, and you're getting energy. It also, that going back, and I'm repeating myself, but the vegan gluten-free, I think, has a whole subset of opportunity in there as well too, I'm sure, from creating identify different personas across the supply chain of consumers, but also you're going into retail spaces, you're selling online, you're selling on Amazon, you're selling on TikTok. That also in and of itself is a challenge. You're managing an omni-channel storefront. I think I saw on your LinkedIn, you're installing a local grocery in Greece, right? So you're all over the place. How is that going and being omni-channel, and where do you see the best focus for results as you're getting this off the ground?
Yeah, so we know that e-commerce incentivizes trial, right? And so we're using e-commerce very strategically and trying to be present where people would go and look for the product, right?
Okay.
So Amazon, Walmart.com, TikTok Shop. We set up the Amazon.com prior to TikTok Shop because we know there's a funnel loss. People will leave TikTok Shop to go sniff check on Amazon, and then a lot of times they buy it on Amazon
if they find it.
Yeah.
Or they want to see. I was talking with someone. They want to see if like it's a legit thing.
Yeah.
It's because there's so much. Is this real or
Yeah.
Sniff check. I like that. I'm gonna steal that.
So we're using e-commerce. It also gives us the opportunity to have a lot more control of the data and the marketing and so anyways, so that is a specific piece of it, but the focus is moving with retail. So we're onboarding with a distributor. We are working with a big grocer down in New York City, New Jersey, to go into 45 stores in September. We have another large grocery store that potentially end of this year or early next year will be on their store shelves. So really focusing on that piece of it, but it's a multifaceted. So the e-commerce remains. You have the retail channel. We're also next week meeting with RIT. So looking at college campuses. We just went into LaGuardia Airport. So like looking at institutional.
Where at LaGuardia?
At the Bowery and Terminal C.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah. So we're working on the institutional side as well, because there's a lot of application there. And then I mentioned on the B2B side, the chips and wafers.
Yeah.
So really very multi-channel.
It's a lot of surfaces that you're creating a lot of touch points, but the retail distribution is going to be the core. That's what's going to catapult you to get to the sales goals that you're looking for.
That's the core. Yeah. We're building this business to eventually exit.
Sure.
And so the way that you do that is you drive your top line sales and you crush your sales goals year over year. And, you build something, you build a brand, and you build something that's exitable. And so on the retail side, that is one of the main channels, right? That's the main channel that you're gonna build that.
Right. And so where does this, in that retail channel, where does this go as you're competing for shelf space? Where does this belong, and where do you have to fight to get this placed in your positioning?
So that's a great question. So in my mind, all along, it's been functional candy, which is candy. So there's not an aisle of functional candy, but in the candy aisle, if you go over and look, you'll find products like Hue and JoJo and Unreal and some of the sugar, some of the non-chocolate products like Blobs, there's a bunch of like functional candies. It's a smaller set, right? It
Mhm.
used to just be the sugar-free candy area.
Okay.
Right. But now there's a lot
That's
of
where I'm
innovation.
that's where I'm going into.
Now there's a
yeah.
lot of innovation in that space. And so we've had the feedback that this should go in the nutrition bar aisle,
Mhm.
which is a sea of competitive product with high churn rate. And my feeling
Like
is
protein bars and stuff like that. Like,
My
yeah,
feeling
there's
is
a million of them. You go on Wegmans, it's like the whole row, and you're
and it's like anything from energy calorically to high protein content to you name a functional claim, it goes into that aisle. My problem is the only reason I go into that aisle is looking for high protein products, right?
Yeah.
And like I don't want to be an energy product sitting next to high calorically Cliff Bar is an energy bar.
Yeah,
right.
That's different.
Yeah,
because you're talking. This is 2 grams of protein against. This is a wholly different subset.
Yeah.
So it doesn't really fit there.
The challenge for me is like I don't see the nutrition bar aisle. Maybe I'll be proven wrong, and we are going to test it in some grocers to see if that is. But currently today, the way that we're set up, the way that it's packaged, the way that it's designed for the shelf is for functional candy, and I think that, by the way, is a way more interesting space. The growth is significantly more like functional candy is growing somewhere between 7 and 20%, depending on what report, what brand, what product you're looking at.
Okay.
Versus, you're seeing a standard 6-7% growth in the nutrition bar aisle. And like I said, you just have a lot of competition and a high churn over in that aisle. So my thinking is we live in functional candy, and then a secondary placement in a point of purchase over at the coffee aisle, like a display in the coffee aisle, because it goes with your coffee, not instead of your coffee. And then obviously, the expensive real estate up at register at checkout.
Yeah, I could see the register at checkout being the ultimate holy grail of placement in terms of where that makes the most sense. Just in my mind, I know you're gonna have to get there, and it's probably expensive, and the whole margin table that goes into that. I don't even know like what to look at there. And how do the e-com assist with that retail distribution, or is it more of like it adds to your story to tell, or is it important that they want to see you there and see you getting traction, that there's a market demand?
I think both. E-com raises awareness of the product. It's a good marketing tool. It shows that there's demand for the product. Like in our first 4 weeks on Amazon, I think we had like 76 orders.
Okay.
Which is pretty solid, for a just launched brand. However, I will tell you, because, the point of the podcast is to talk about some of the challenges, right?
Yeah.
Like not all the highlights. And like what we learned in our first round with Amazon, we were on FBA. We were told that they would shut off FBA once the temperatures got too warm for melting products.
Yeah.
They still haven't shut off FBA, by the way, and it's almost
June. So you're gonna have to receive all this product. And for people who don't know, that FBA is fulfilled by Amazon. That's where you send your product to Amazon for distribution, and they put it in their warehouse. And then when you order it, it goes through their shipping infrastructure. Mm-hmm. And the alternative is FBS. And I have a customer who dealt with the same thing when she was rolling out her CPG, because it was like you go through all this and you learn the months, because her has like vegan chocolate chips in a cookie mix, and it was like, oh wait a minute, I have to take this all back, and then you incur that cost, and it becomes FBS, so fulfilled by seller. So you still are selling through Amazon, but you have to go back to your packaging or your fulfillment. Essentially.
Yeah. And so the first couple of weeks went great. The temperatures were compliant.
Mm-hmm.
The following few weeks, the temperatures got hot and product started to melt. And when product melts, it gets ugly from melting, but it also, the fat will bloom, which means the fat comes to the surface and it gives it like a white chalky look.
You can't sell it.
Yeah. And there's nothing wrong with the product. There's nothing that's not food safe. It's just ugly.
It's just not the presentation.
That's not that's not how you want it. It'd be like a chef. It'd be like going to a 5-star dining experience and the chef brings out a sloppy plate, right? Like that's not how it goes.
Yeah.
So we learned like, oh my gosh, like FBA, they're not going to cold pack your product, right? So we didn't get the transition on FBA to FBS or FBM soon enough. And so we ended up having, a handful of products that went out, and we took care of it. We took care of our customers. We replaced, and cold shipped the people that reached out and said, hey, the product got to me and it had bloomed. But then, we had to take all the inventory back. We had to pay a fee to Amazon to take it back. By the way, Amazon, if you're listening, what a shoddy job shipping the product back. Like, it literally showed it to my doorstep in like Amazon paper bags, and it literally looked like someone stomped it before they shipped it back.
Oh,
so
wow.
all the bars, the majority of the bars were broken.
For your inventory.
Yeah. For my inventory that came back, it literally was the most mishandled. I thought, geez, I don't know that if I know for a fact, if I had shipped product to them in that condition, they would have told me to get lost. They would have never accepted it. But it shows up to my door, and literally it looks like it was stomped.
Amazon is such a, if you're looking to sell on there as, retail space, it is, you really need someone to help you navigate that. I would hit up, I know you guys are probably working with a consultant or.
Yeah, we have an agency called 1032. They've been awesome.
I would send them the picture. Maybe they can get some credits there, but who knows? It's like, that's the one thing about Amazon is like, it's kind of like you got to deal with them. But that's a bad experience. I know they're kill you on the fees and everything. It's I don't know if it's comparable to even like your retail margins or like
no. So it's funny, like we've had the e-commerce website, our own e-commerce website up since mid-March when it launched,
right?
And in 4 weeks, we saw a little bit of traction, not anything crazy. By the way, you get your best margin on your own website,
of course.
On Amazon, we sacrifice a bunch of margin in order to have it be convenient for the consumer, and then that's where we saw a ton of people interested in buying the product.
Yeah.
So it's a great channel. They do a great job, but like,
and then they own the customer though too. It's not like you can say, hey, it's available over on the website here. It's like it's the distinction of church and state, right?
Yep.
You can't. They own that relationship. That's what you're paying to the placement there for.
So even as people that are in the industry and know what we're doing, there's things that you learn, and that was a learning. That was a tough, like, we're not talking thousands of dollars, but it was a tough learning that like next year we know that as of March 15th, it's FBM, and we stay FBM until November 1st.
Yeah.
Right. Because we can control and cold ship and make sure the product is sent appropriately. So, you learn.
That's also a challenge, is that you have to prep for the cold ship and get who are you using for 3PL? Is it local? Or?
Yeah.
Okay. So then you have to prep them on doing that and buy the materials.
Yep. I actually had to go out and buy. So we use a small 3PL that doesn't do cold shipping right now. So this weekend on Memorial Day, I went out and bought a chest freezer.
Oh my gosh.
And this week I'm going to drop it over there with all the cold packs. So we've already done all the testing for cold shipping, and we know exactly what we need to do, but now we have to.
It impacts the shipping cost though too. You're adding weight, and the whole shipping cost is a whole nother.
Luckily, we have a really great partner in EPG for our UPS account. Like, we get some of the most insane rates. The rates are so good. So that's it's actually not that bad. Like, I just shipped 6 bars with a cold pack in a thermal bubble mailer in a box to Texas for $15 second day air.
Oh, that's a good rate.
That's not bad.
That's a good rate.
That's not bad
for second day air.
Yeah.
But even as you're doing that, it's like, those are especially in e-com, the multi-channel, those are the give and take for the margins that, you're going to have the expectations of retail, but you're discovering across all those different channels, they're going to have different rates. Like if you're selling that direct on your Shopify store, it has a different margin than what you're doing on TikTok, what you're doing on Amazon. And then also tracking all of that for the tax nexus. There's so many different things in doing e-commerce, multi-channel CPG that there's got to be a lot of those little learning experiences.
Yeah. Early on, you got to look at e-commerce as marketing expense.
Sure.
Right. It's incenting early trial. It's getting the product into people's hands. Are the margins killer? No, but you claw all that margin back as you continue to grow and scale.
You build the brand
and build the loyalty and build the other channels. And like I always say to my boss, to Scott at Bison, like, we can't look at small amounts of data. You can't look at my monthly sales. Like, yes, it might look like this month is a dog. Let's look at the quarter. Right. So like you have to zoom out. And so same thing with margin, right? Same thing with margin for Bison. It's like, you know, you might have to price something really aggressively for this particular application to win it. And yeah, it looks terrible on paper, but you need to look at your blended margin, right? You need to look at it across 10 jobs, not across one.
Yeah.
And so that's kind of always where my head's at, is like making sure that we're looking at larger sets of data and
over a longer
margin,
period of time.
Yeah.
That, you know, what's the lifetime value of this customer over, you know, and how much are they contributing back to that margin?
Right.
If you are really hitting that dialed in ICP,
Yep.
right? So it makes it a little bit easier to, you know, forecast, I guess, eventually from there.
Yep.
So you got a lot to handle. What's the outlook? What's the rest of 2026 looking like for Moka Energy?
Yeah, continuing to push e-commerce, launching with a big program on TikTok Shop, continuing activations in regional retail. The focus is strategically growing a cult following and focusing on regional, not allowing the temptation of the number of doors to be the measure of success, but rather the quality of the door and the sales. So really staying focused there on the regional. Launching out into the retailer down in its ShopRite, Gourmet Garage, and Fairway down in New York City, New Jersey. And then later this year.
Oh, that's awesome. Congratulations.
Thank you. Later this year, early next year, launching into Whole Foods. And so really focusing on those campaigns and then just getting people out. My big thing is getting people out to the regional activations that are current. Right? Like you can buy the product at Dell's Market in Greece if you're from the west side. If you're from the east side, you can go to Redbird Market in Fairport. If you're kind of in the middle, Nyblack Foods in Henrietta. If you're out on the wine trail, it's at Three Brothers Winery. It's at Boza Pasta. I mean, so it's at Eagle Vale Golf Course. So it's at a variety of different places. And it's like
you get at Woodcliff yet? You're old.
I am working on that. Yeah.
Coming full circle here.
Yeah. I'm working on that. I'm working on the Strath Allen. I'm working on Broadway. So like trying to get it out into as many kind of smaller local retail and then getting people out to support it and buy product.
Yeah.
So that we can get that traction and like, you know, get that data.
And then as you're doing that, you're also doing the investor tour. And a lot of
the never-ending
investor tour. And I guess, you know, we could end with this, but I guess the only issue that you may have on the label is the usage, 2 bars per day maximum. Yeah. So there's a cap at how many you get.
We're trying to be good. We're trying to be responsible.
Yeah, I say that in jest, obviously.
Yeah, you saw what happened with Panera and the lemonade products they put out last year that had like 300 milligrams of caffeine.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. And kids were drinking it or whatever. Okay. I do kind of remember. Oh man. So it's like the 1 chip challenge, you know, it's like, be careful, buyer beware.
Yeah. I mean, I'm ashamed to admit this, but I'll admit it. Like I probably consume somewhere between 500 and 1,000 milligrams of caffeine a day.
So that's where the energy.
Yeah. And so like, you know, but what we know is that like, you shouldn't be giving it to your kids.
Yeah.
If you're pregnant, you shouldn't be.
I think it's
and try
be
to
responsible
limit yourself to 2 bars a day, because I don't want to be liable for, you know, a panic attack or a heart attack or same as coffee. Like the same way you treat coffee. If you wouldn't drink, you know, 10 cups of coffee in a day, don't eat 10 of these bars. Like,
well, it's like you buy a bottle of tequila, you're gonna drink the whole thing, you're gonna have a bad time. You know, it is. There's just some common sense things, but also, you know what? It's like I just ate one of these, and it's like it's fulfilling. You know, if I was eating a chocolate bar, I may want another chocolate bar after I've introduced that like glycemic, spiking all those things, you know, insert science data here or whatever. But of one, it's like, it's really clean. I'm a fan. So if people are interested in Moka Energy or getting in touch with you, how should they do so?
Yeah. If you're looking for a permissibly indulgent treat, you can go to our website, www.mokaenergy.com, MOKA. You can find us on Amazon, TikTok Shop. If you're a small business owner, you can buy product on Fair or Grovara.
Okay.
Those are platforms that you can access. And then, like I said, around town in retail at Dell's Market, Redbird Market, Niblack Foods, Boza Pasta, and more oncoming. So keep your eye out for the product as you're out in your local favorite place. And on social media across all platforms, we love engaging with our customers. We love engaging with the public. One of my favorite things to do is go out and do demos. So when you see me posting that I'm going to be out at a store doing a demo, come on out, chat with me, challenge me, try the product. I love meeting people. I love talking to people. So
yeah.
Yeah.
You can tell. We can
Yeah,
tell.
yeah.
Tom, thanks for coming by and taking the time today. And best of luck. I'm a fan, and I'm excited to see where this goes, and you guys catapult into the stratosphere. And we'll have you back on for some progress, and when you have more bumps and bruises that you can share as you experience them, man. But I really appreciate your time today, and check it out. It's Tom Seymour, Moka Energy, and this has been Huckleros. Thank you for tuning in and checking it out.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.